We've all seen it. A woman chasing a man who barely acknowledges her. He acts uninterested, detached, even cold, yet somehow he's the one she can't stop thinking about. Why does this happen? It's not love. It's not fate. It's psychology. And once you understand it, you'll never fall into that trap again. You know what's fascinating? The men who treat women with warmth, with consistency, with steady attention are often the ones overlooked. Meanwhile, the man who barely calls, who doesn't text back right away, who seems almost indifferent, he somehow becomes unforgettable. Why does this paradox exist? Why does the human heart, especially a woman's heart, sometimes crave the very person who gives her the least? It's not because women don't recognize kindness. It's not because they don't want love. It's because of something far deeper hidden in human psychology. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The men who act uninterested often trigger powerful subconscious responses. Their silence, their detachment, their inconsistency, it doesn't repel, it magnetizes, it creates obsession. Think about it. If a man replies instantly every single time, if he's always available, always giving, the brain registers his presence as ordinary, safe. Yes, but predictable. On the other hand, when a man withdraws, when his attention is scarce, when he leaves questions unanswered, the brain goes into overdrive. It starts searching for meaning. It assumes there must be value in what is limited, and that is where the trap begins. This isn't about love. This isn't about soulmates. This is about psychology, about how our brains misinterpret scarcity as worth, mystery as depth, challenge as love. And unless we learn to recognize these patterns, we risk spending years chasing men who were never emotionally available in the first place. So in this video, I'm going to break down exactly why women get addicted to men who act uninterested, the psychological principles behind it, the illusions that keep the cycle alive, and most importantly, how to break free. Because once you see the truth, you can never be trapped by it again. One of the most powerful forces in human psychology is scarcity. The moment something becomes hard to get, the human brain automatically assumes it must be valuable. Think about it. When a store puts up a sign that says only 3 left in stock, suddenly people rush to buy it. When a concert ticket is almost sold out, demand skyrockets. Not because the seats got better, not because the music changed, but simply because the mind equates rarity with worth. Now, imagine the same principle applied to relationship. When a man acts distant, when he doesn't flood you with attention, when he withholds affection, your brain doesn't dismiss him. It does the opposite. It begins to interpret his scarcity as proof that his time and his love must be valuable. It's the same way we treat water. In a city where water flows endlessly from every tap, you don't think twice about it. You leave the faucet running, you take it for granted. But imagine yourself stranded in a desert, parched, hopeless, and then you stumble across a single small bottle of water. That bottle suddenly feels priceless, not because the water is different, but because it is rare. This is exactly how scarcity works in attraction. A man who is always available, always texting back instantly, always eager to please, may feel safe, but he rarely feels exciting. His abundance makes him ordinary. His consistency, though, healthy, triggers no urgency in the brain. But the man who withholds, the one who disappears, who makes you wait, who sprinkles just a little attention here and there, his scarcity makes every gesture feel extraordinary. A single text feels like a gift. A small compliment feels like gold. Not because it truly carries more meaning, but because your brain has been tricked into exaggerating its value. And here's the danger. Scarcity bypasses logic. Consciously, a woman might know that this man is detached, inconsistent, maybe even disrespectful, but subconsciously, her brain whispers, if his attention is rare, it must mean something. This illusion creates addiction. The less he gives, the more she craves, the more he withholds, the more her mind convinces her that he must be special. It's not real intimacy, it's psychological conditioning. Scarcity turns neglect into a prize. Scarcity turns indifference into mystery. Scarcity makes women fight harder for what should have been freely given. And this is where so many women get trapped, not because they're weak, not because they don't deserve love, but because their brain has mistaken scarcity for worth. So remember this, just because something is rare doesn't mean it is valuable. Sometimes it's just rare because it's empty. And until you learn to separate scarcity from true love, you will keep chasing men who are not giving more, they're giving less. And your heart deserves more. If scarcity pulls women in by making something feel rare, mystery traps them by making something feel unsolved. Human beings are wired for answers. The brain hates uncertainty. It hates unfinished stories. When something doesn't make sense, we obsess over it. We replay it. We analyze it. And this is exactly what happens when a man behaves inconsistently. One day, he's warm. He laughs with you. He sends a sweet message. He looks at you like you're the only one in the room. The next day, he's cold, silent, distracted, distant, and suddenly your mind is flooded with questions. Did I do something wrong? Was yesterday real or fake? What does his silence mean? Why does he pull away right when I start to feel close? These unanswered questions create a loop in your brain. Instead of walking away, you invest more energy trying to decode him. And here's the trap. The more energy you spend trying to solve him, the more emotionally invested you become. It's the same feeling you get when you're reading a novel that keeps ending chapters with a cliffhanger. If every page gave you clear, predictable answers, you'd close the book and move on. But when the story leaves, you wondering, when the mystery feels unfinished, you keep reading, you can't put it down. That's how women get hooked on emotionally unavailable men. His unpredictability becomes the cliffhanger. His silence becomes the puzzle. His inconsistency becomes the unsolved riddle you can't let go of. And because the human imagination hates empty spaces, you start filling in the blanks yourself. If he doesn't text, maybe he's busy with something important. If he withdraws, maybe he's just complicated. If he gives you half a story, you create the other half in your head. This is where the illusion gets dangerous. The man himself may not have depth. He may not be extraordinary at all, but your imagination builds layers around him. You convince yourself that his silence means wisdom, that his coldness means strength, that his unpredictability means he's different. In reality, the mystery isn't depth, it's emptiness, disguised. But because you are the one doing the work, analyzing, guessing, creating meaning, you feel bonded to him. You feel like you're on a journey of discovery, when in truth, you are trapped in an unfinished story that was never meant to be completed. The mystery effect makes women mistake emotional unavailability for intrigue. It makes them chase not the man, but the suspense he creates. Every unanswered question becomes another reason to stay. Every vague gesture becomes another chapter in the novel that never ends. And the cruel truth, the more unfinished the story feels, the harder it becomes to close the book and walk away. So if you ever find yourself overanalyzing someone's silence, remember this mystery isn't always magic. Sometimes it's just manipulation. If scarcity makes his attention feel valuable and mystery makes his silence feel intriguing, then the next trap is just as powerful, the challenge effect. Human beings are wired to value what doesn't come easily. The harder something is to attain, the more it feels worth attaining. And when it comes to relationships, this psychology becomes dangerous. Think about it. If a man showers you with attention from the start, always texting first, always complimenting, always bending to please, you may feel safe, but you don't feel challenged. And when there's no challenge, desire often fades. Now compare that to the man who doesn't fold so easily. He doesn't give away his affection cheaply. He doesn't hand over validation without effort. He makes you work for it. And suddenly your subconscious lights up. Why isn't he impressed? Why doesn't he chase me like the others? What will it take to win him over? That's the challenge effect. It transforms the relationship into a conquest, a game of achievement. He is no longer just a man. You turn him into a prize. And if you can win him, it feels like victory. It's the same principle that makes people value luxury goods. Why pay 10 times more for a handbag with a brand label when a cheaper one carries your things just as well? Because luxury brands are positioned as exclusive, difficult, prestigious. The challenge of owning it makes it feel like it has more worth. But here's the truth. In relationships, the luxury label is often an illusion. A man who acts uninterested isn't necessarily valuable. He's just difficult. And difficult isn't the same as desirable, yet the brain doesn't know the difference. It keeps whispering, if I can get him to love me, it will prove I'm worthy. So women chase harder, give more, tolerate more, not because he is extraordinary, but because conquering him has become the mission. This is how the trap deepens. The more effort you invest, the harder it becomes to walk away. You think, I've already given so much. I can't kite now. It's the same psychology that keeps gamblers at the table. Once you've played long enough, you can't leave without winning. But here's the reality. A healthy relationship is not supposed to be a test. You have to pass. It's not supposed to feel like a prize you must earn. Love is not meant to be a challenge. It's meant to be a connection. The challenge effect tricks women into chasing men who offer little because difficulty gets mistaken for value. But real value isn't about how hard someone makes you work for them. Real value is in how consistently they show up for you. So if you ever find yourself thinking, if I can just win him, I'll prove my worth. Remember, you are not meant to fight for love. You are meant to receive it freely. If scarcity makes him feel valuable and mystery keeps you guessing and challenge turns him into a prize, then the next trap is perhaps the most addictive of them all. It's the same principle that keeps gamblers pulling slot machine levers. It's the cycle of dopamine highs and lows. You see, the human brain is wired for reward. And the chemical behind that feeling of reward is dopamine. But here's the key. Dopamine doesn't just spike when we get pleasure. It spikes the most when the pleasure is unpredictable. That's why people keep refreshing their social media feeds. Sometimes there's a notification, sometimes there isn't. That's why gamblers keep playing. Sometimes they win. Most of the time they don't. The unpredictability itself becomes addictive. Now, apply this to relationships. When a man is consistent, warm every day, present every day, affectionate every day, he creates stability, and stability feels safe, but it doesn't create a dopamine roller coaster. But when a man is inconsistent, warm one day, cold the next, loving for a moment, distant for a week, he creates uncertainty. And in that uncertainty, dopamine goes wild. You never know what's coming. And that keeps you hooked. When he finally does give a little affection, a text, a smile, a compliment, it feels electric. Not because the gesture is extraordinary, but because it comes after a drought. The brain exaggerates the reward. A single word suddenly feels like a grand victory. This cycle is devastating because it teaches women to associate love with relief, relief from anxiety, relief from waiting, relief from rejection. And that relief feels intoxicating. It's the same tactic used in toxic relationships: hurt, then soothe, withdraw, then reward. The pain makes the pleasure feel bigger than it actually is. Over time, this pattern reprograms a woman's self-worth. She begins to measure her value not by who she is, but by whether or not he chooses to respond today. Did he text back? Did he smile? Did he pay attention? Each yes becomes proof that she matters. Each no chips away at her confidence. It's like living in a maze, chasing tiny rewards that never satisfy, but always keep you running. The high is short, the low is long, and the cycle repeats. What makes this so destructive is that it bypasses logic. A woman may know he's inconsistent. She may know he's not offering real love. But her brain clings to the memory of the last high, hoping it will return. And every time it does return, the bond feels stronger, not because the love is real, but because the relief is addictive. This is not intimacy. This is not love. This is chemical conditioning, a psychological trap designed by inconsistency itself. So if you find yourself clinging to the small moments because they feel enormous, ask yourself, do I really love him, or am I just addicted to the highs he gives me after the pain? Because the truth is, love should never feel like a slot machine. If scarcity makes him feel valuable, mystery makes him intriguing, challenge makes him desirable, and highs and lows make him addictive, then the next trap is even more subtle. It's what I call the illusion of power and control. Relationships are never just about emotions. They are also about dynamics: who sets the tone, who holds the frame, who decides the pace. And here's the truth: in any interaction, the one who appears less invested often holds more power. When a man acts detached, when he doesn't chase, when he doesn't beg, when he doesn't adjust himself to win you over, he creates the impression that he's in control. His detachment feels like dominance. His silence feels like strength. His refusal to bend makes it seem like he cannot be swayed. And for many women, that is magnetic. Why? Because the human mind associates control with authority and authority with value. The one who seems unaffected becomes the one who seems untouchable. Imagine this: several men are vying for your attention. Most of them are eager, flattering, quick to please. Their energy feels light, maybe even dispirited. But then there's one man who doesn't play the game. He doesn't move. When you move, he doesn't react to every word. He doesn't seem to need you instantly. His presence feels heavier, more powerful, more significant. And here's the danger: what women often mistake for strength is sometimes just indifference. What feels like confidence may simply be emotional unavailability. But the illusion is strong. It convinces you that his distance means he has a higher purpose. Stronger boundaries, a deeper center. This dynamic flips the balance. The more power you think he has, the less you feel you hold. Slowly, you begin to adjust yourself. You wait for his approval. You try to meet his silent standards. You shrink so that he can appear larger. His silence becomes louder than someone else's love. His absence feels more important than someone else's presence. He doesn't have to do much by withholding. He becomes the one in control. And here's the heartbreaking part. Many women confuse this illusion with safety. They believe, if he is this steady, this unaffected, then maybe he can protect me. Maybe he is strong enough to lead me. But in reality, it's not leadership. It's detachment dressed up as strength. This is how control works. It doesn't need to be declared. It only needs to be perceived. And once you hand over that perception, you start giving away more and more of your own power without even realizing it. The truth is, this real strength doesn't come from caring less Real confidence doesn't come from withholding. Real leadership in love isn't about who dominates. It's about who shows up. So if you ever find yourself drawn to a man simply because he seems to hold all the power, pause and ask yourself, is he really strong or is he just attached? Because love is not about who controls the most. Love is about who gives the most. Up until now, we've explored the surface level traps, scarcity, mystery, challenge, power, the highs and lows. But beneath all of these lies, something even deeper, something more personal, something far more dangerous, and that is childhood wounds. The truth is, many women are not just falling for emotionally unavailable men. They are falling into familiar pain. Here's what I mean. Every child grows up learning what love feels like. If love in your childhood was consistent, safe, unconditional, you will naturally expect the same in adulthood. But if love was unpredictable, if affection had to be earned, if validation was rare, you carry that blueprint forward without even realizing it. A little girl who only received attention when she excelled in school learns, I have to perform to be loved. A girl whose father was emotionally absent learns, love is something I must chase. A child who felt unseen, unheard, or dismissed grows into a woman who mistakes neglect for normalcy. So when she meets a man who withholds affection, who gives little and takes much, something strange happens. Her conscious mind says, this hurts, but her subconscious whispers, this feels familiar, this feels like home. This is why so many women stay stuck. They're not just chasing a man, they're chasing resolution. They believe, if I can finally make him love me, it will heal the wound I've carried since childhood. But here's the trap. The kind of man who withholds love is rarely the kind of man who will give it freely. So the cycle keeps repeating. Each rejection reopens the old wound. Each withdrawal of affection reinforces the old belief I'm not enough unless I earn it. And each small moment of warmth feels overwhelming because it mirrors the rare, precious moments of approval they once fought for as children. This is not passion. This is not destiny. This is trauma playing itself out in the theater of romance. And until those wounds are acknowledged and healed, the cycle will never end. Because the mind doesn't seek what is healthy, it seeks what is familiar. So here's the truth. You don't need to chase the man who feels like home if home was built on pain. You don't need to repeat the past to prove you are worthy of love. Healing your wounds breaks the pattern. Healing your wounds allows you to see that consistency is not boring. It is love. That stability is not weakness. It is strength. That real intimacy doesn't trigger your trauma. It soothes it. The past may have written the script, but you have the power to change the ending. Now that we've uncovered the trap scarcity, mystery, challenge, the dopamine highs and lows, the illusion of power, and even the pull of childhood wounds, it's time to break the spell. To see these patterns not as romance, but as illusions. Because here is the truth. None of this is love. Scarcity is not love. Mystery is not love. Challenge is not love. Power is not love. And unhealed wounds, they are not destiny. Real love does not make you feel anxious. Real love does not make you guess. Real love does not make you shrink, beg, or prove yourself. Real love feels like presence, like safety, like consistency. The moment you see the cycle for what it is, you take your power back. You realize you were never really chasing him. You were chasing the feelings he triggered, the rush of scarcity, the thrill of the chase, the hope of finally being chosen. But here's the shift. You don't need to be chosen to be valuable. You already are valuable. Imagine this for a moment. Instead of seeing his silence as strength, you recognize it as emptiness. Instead of seeing his coldness as mystery, you recognize it as detachment. Instead of seeing his inconsistency as passion, you recognize it as immaturity. And when you see clearly, you can choose differently. You no longer waste your energy chasing someone who gives little. You no longer mistake neglect for depth. You no longer confuse pain with passion. Instead, you start setting a higher standard, a standard where love is steady, not scarce, where a man's presence is reliable, not unpredictable, where intimacy feels calming, not chaotic. Because here's the deepest truth of all, you don't need a man to complete you. You don't need his validation to prove your worth. You are already whole. You are already enough. And the moment you choose to break the illusion, you open yourself to a different kind of love. A love that is mutual, a love that is stable, a love that doesn't take from you, but gives to you. So remember this, you are not addicted to him. You are addicted to the illusion. And illusions lose their power the moment you see them clearly. You are everything with or without him. So let me leave you with this. Love is never something you should have to chase. It's never something you should have to beg for. And it is never something that makes you feel small. If you've ever found yourself trapped in this cycle, longing for the man who acts uninterested, chasing the one who withholds, know this. You were never really chasing him. You were chasing the feelings he triggered, but feelings built on scarcity, mystery, and inconsistency are not love. They are illusions. The moment you recognize that truth, you step into your power. You remember who you are, and you realize that real strength is consistency. Real intimacy is stability, and real love is presence. So from this moment on, promise yourself one thing. You will no longer accept love that makes you question your worth. You will no longer lower your standards just to feel chosen, because you are already chosen by yourself. And when you start living from that truth, you attract a very different kind of man, one who doesn't make you guess, one who doesn't make you chase, one who sees you, values you, and loves you without conditions. If this message resonated with you, share it with a friend who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more deep conversations like this. And let's build a community of women who no longer settle for less than they deserve. Because remember this, you are everything with or without him.